Can Tank Bigsby do enough to get into the second round of the NFL draft? We'll tell you on today's Locked On Auburn.
Freezing temperatures are likely for several hours inland and a few hours closer to the coast.
Yes.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackery, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're talking NFL draft today, so we welcome in Damien Parson, host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. And Damien, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on some of these guys. We're going to talk specifically about the Auburn players that were invited to the Combine: Tank Bigsby, Owen Pappoe, Derick Hall, Eku Leota, Colby Wooden, and Anders Carlson. Kickers are people too. Let's start with Tank, Damien, because I think we all agree, like, Tank can be really, really special, but like the way he was used at Auburn, I don't know if it's going to be the same way he's going to be used at the next level. When you watch Tank Bigsby, what stands out to you?
Oh man, the aggressive run style, man. He's a north and south runner.
Yeah.
And he's a no nonsense runner as well. You know, and to be a running back in the SEC is tough because, like, you know, the physicality is going to be there week in and week out once you hit SEC play, right? Especially when you got Bama and Georgia on your schedule every single year. You know what to expect. And Tank, even it's from his freshman year to now, like, the vision, patience, and what I love about him is the footwork. You know what I mean? The ability to get in and out of gaps, exchange lanes, and to me he's a scheme versatile back as well, Zach. And I really like his game. The main thing that really bothered me with his usage is because, you know, everybody looks for the more you can do in the NFL, catching the football, right? He's not going to be the guy that's going to run a lot of routes, but I always think back to when I talk about running backs, I always think back to Todd Gurley when he was at Georgia. He didn't catch a lot of passes. He was so dominant as a runner. That's all he did. He got with Sean McVay, and Sean McVay said, well, we're going to do a lot of different things with you, bud. You know, they put him out wide, you know, in the slot. They did a lot of different things with him. I wish that the offensive staff would have gotten him the ball more in space, because he's a hard back to tackle for linebackers. Now think about putting DBs in one-on-one situations against this 200 plus pound running back that runs physical with great pad level. So that was something that I really wish I saw more of.
Sure. Come on an Auburn show mentioning Todd Gurley. Okay, I see how it is. When you were watching Tank, though, I mean, how much of it was just like, man, the fact that he's getting positive yardage at all behind that offensive line? Yes. I mean, he seemed like every other handoff, Damion, he was getting hit in the backfield. And it's like the fact, well, he got hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It'd be like a 3-yard run. And it's like, okay, statistically that's not impressive, but as far as ability, it's like, man, this guy's really, really good.
Yes. For a back that plays with so much aggressiveness and physicality, he has the elusiveness as well, Zach. And that's, I think it was the Ole Miss game where he had a couple runs that he broke long downfield. Yeah. And one of them, he attacked the A gap, got into the teeth of the second level, made a couple guys miss with quick, decisive jump cuts. And then it was house from there, right? Big explosive plays in the run game. And it was crazy talking to some people in the area and just talking about how different the offensive line felt when Coach Cadillac Williams took over as the interim head coach, and he emphasized the run game. One thing I always tell people, man, offensive linemen, they don't mind pass protecting, but they love to run block. They love to go forward. And when you emphasize that and make the, hey guys, we're going to lean on these big defensive linemen, it gets those guys into a rhythm, and you could see it towards the back end of the season.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Both he and Jarquez Hunter benefited from that. Tank Bigsby, what kind of grade are you thinking for him?
I have him as a high 3, high 3rd round pick. Okay. Could be a French 2. Just depends on what the run looks like at running back. This is a really talented group, right? You know, we know all the other names. So it just depends on where the run starts and how quickly teams are going after it. But I think this is a young man that, looking at it, he was impressive in the SEC in college. Yeah. He didn't have the gaudy numbers that some guys had because he didn't have the workload and usage and different things like that. But I think this is a young man that the NFL teams are going to love. He will pass protect. He can catch the ball. It's just limited exposure to that. Right. So it's like, but at the same time, think about Le'Veon Bell coming out of Michigan State. He didn't catch the ball much in college. Sure. He got to the Steelers. man, the jugs machine is on every NFL practice field, baby. So you can go and work on your catching the football and being a weapon out of the backfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if an NFL team really likes Tank Bigsby. There's a lot to like with what he offers. Another guy that I'm really, really interested to see how NFL teams will view him and how they want to use him, Owen Pappoe, the Auburn linebacker, the two-time team captain, Damion, great locker room guy. It always seemed like he never really lived up to what his potential was athletically at Auburn. And I'm cool blaming coaches for that. I don't think he really had great linebacker coaching while he was at Auburn. But as far as traits go, he's going to be a winner at the combine just because of how well he moves and how athletic he is, I think. We'll see. He's still kind of got some nagging injuries. We'll see how that works. But when you watch Owen Pappoe, what stands out?
The speed, right? Yep. That explosiveness, sideline to sideline, when he's triggering downhill in the run game, his range is incredible. Yeah. And not only that, but the effort. There's a play, I believe it was against Ole Miss when I watched that game, and I think it was may have been a jet sweep, and the ball carrier is like about 10, 15 yards upfield. And I believe it happened in the Mississippi State game as well, where he chased down a receiver. You know what I mean? And it's like the speed, it's real deal, legit. And I think what I remember putting in my report was the coverage upside. And at the end of the day, the days of Brandon Spikes, 260-pound linebackers, those days are long gone, man.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You need guys like Owen Pappoe that can come in and be that 3-down type of backer that you can put him in the overhang out in the slot. You can blitz him off the edge, and you can drop him off into these zone coverages. With his athleticism, you know what I mean? Like the ability to interrupt the passing lane for quarterbacks is so pivotal in the NFL. Zone coverage is different things of that nature, and the RPO game. I think the combine will be big for him because if he's healthy and he can go out there and show the type of freak that he is athletically, it's going to open a lot of people's eyes to his game.
Do you think he's like a Mike linebacker at the next level?
I think there's potential for it. I personally would like to see him more as an outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like he's still a little delayed in reading the run. And reading the run action in the NFL is big because if you don't read it quickly, those centers and guards are right up on you. And it happens so fast in the blink of an eye that they will double team the nose tackle and get up to you. And I want to see him just like process quicker so that he can diagnose plays. Sometimes he does have the tendency he's good locating the ball, but he can cheat a little bit where the pre-snap motions and stuff will get him, and kind of pull his eyes away from where the actual play, those misdirection. So I want to see him kind of, the term that linebacker coaches use is slow until you know. You know what I mean? So I want to see him just kind of utilize that more because with his athleticism, he's always going to have the recovery speed to get back into the action. You just don't want to get too far out of it.
No, that's something I've said a bunch about Auburn's linebackers over the last 2 seasons. It's like that first step. It never really seems to be quick enough. Not like, you know, we saw Zacoby McClain and we saw Deshaun Davis, like those guys, like they were there every single snap. And we didn't really see that with Owen, but I'm kind of okay blaming coaching for that.
Yeah, I've heard some things about that as well. A lot of just kind of turnover and different coaches and when you got different coaches in the like coming through the building year after year, man, Zach, it really messes with the development of the kids. Because now I was told one thing or told how to defend the run one way last year. Right. Now this other coach wants me to do it a total different way, and my processing just is not able to develop because I'm doing too many things year to year. So I think getting consistent coaching with him will be really impactful for him.
Yeah. All right. Real quick, where do you have Owen graded?
Let's see. I have Owen graded out I had him as a 3, if I remember correctly. Yep.
Third
round pick. Okay. Just off of the athleticism, the bet on traits. He has all the traits that you want to bet on at the linebacker position. Now it's about a coach getting him up to speed and being consistent with him.
Can Derick Hall get into the first round? Damion will tell us in just a moment. Right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's halfway through the NBA season. There's never a bad time, but of course this is a great time to hop on to the FanDuel Sportsbook because all new customers of the FanDuel Sportsbook get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. You know what that means? That means there's no reason not to try out the FanDuel Sportsbook. Plus, FanDuel allows you to combine your bets for a larger and bigger payout at same-day game parlays. There's so much stuff going on. So don't miss this chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA, the NFL, and the Locked On Podcast Network. Damien Parson, host of Locked On NFL Draft, joining us. Derick Hall, McShay put him in his first mock draft as a first rounder. He puts out his second mock draft, not there. Where do you see Derick Hall? Is he a first rounder? Is he just outside of it? He had I thought it was a pretty impressive week in Mobile. What are your thoughts?
I grade him out as a first round pick. So right there,
Okay.
towards the bottom of the first round. But you talk about the traits, right? Being 6'3", 250, 255. And the thing that always like jumped out at me is like the explosive first step, the violent hands. I think he's got a 34-inch arm. So his arm length is incredible for an edge defender. And a lot of people felt like he was up and down in Mobile. And the reason why is because I'm gonna tell you, I don't take as much stock in one-on-ones as everyone else, right? Like it's fun to watch, it's real competitive, but because he's a little unrefined, which goes back to the coaching thing we talked about with Owen, right? It's going to be kind of a theme here, guys. Like the coaching, was not consistent around these guys. Same thing for Colby Wooden when we get to him, but when it comes on to Derick, like he's an unrefined pass rush in terms of just pass rush plan and overall technique. But I could tell you, being at practice, I think it was the first day in pads, him and Tennessee edge rusher Byron Young stayed after practice, and they were working on pass rush moves and counters because they're almost carbon copies of each other, in terms of their size and their skill set and the traits. So it's like, that the work ethic is there. And I remember talking to someone that close to the program, and he told me, he said, man, he takes setting the edge versus the run personal. And that's a guy that when you talk about being able to get on the field early, Zach, that's that's how you get yourself on the field on first and second downs as an edge rusher, is being able to uplift these tackles and these tight ends in the run game, set the edge. I played running back. The one thing you don't want to see is when you're trying to attack the perimeter is the opposite color flashing in front of your face. Now I got to cut into the teeth of the defense with the big D tackles and linebackers. I think for him, like I said, and the crazy part about it, when I watched the tape back from practice, the one-on-ones weren't great, but he looked really good in team drills. Like in the run game, and as a pass rusher, he was collapsing the edge. So it's like the switch flipped for him when they say, okay, we're live, 11 on 11, go do your thing. Maybe one-on-ones isn't his game, but in team drills, he was really impactful.
All right, what about the guy that played opposite side of him? Eku Leota was also down in Mobile. First time he practiced in forever, right? Because he got hurt so early in the season. Small sample size, but he was actually outpacing Derick when it came to production. Really strong start to his final season at Auburn. How do you think folks will evaluate Eku Leota?
I think that they're going to evaluate him. He's going to be a pretty good evaluation in my opinion. I gave him a 3 if I remember correctly, and
really
he's versatile, man. Just looking at his traits, got bend off the edge. He's agile. Even going back to when he was at Northwestern before he transferred into Auburn, they even reduced him inside on the D line to like some 4-eye with his hand in the dirt at 250, 55 pounds. That's incredible because that's more so of the 270, 80 pound range of where you want a guy to be playing. But just watching, the first thing that stood out to him, same thing with Derick, but especially for Leota, was his frame. Like he looked good on the hoof. Just to the eyes, you see him immediately. You're like, okay, this guy's been working, and you could tell he's been working to get back from that torn pec. And similar to Derick, didn't have the best moments in one-on-ones, but in the team drills, he did the same thing. Get after the quarterback, did a good job winning the edge and softening angles. And he's coachable too, because understanding that, he had a rep where if he finished it with the long arm over, he would have cleared the guy. He won the rep initially, but he didn't finish the actual move. And you hear the coaches yelling to him to finish it with the long arm over, and he took it well. He even tweeted about it when he saw a clip of him on that exact same rep. And so he's really coachable, and I think he could play special teams. And they played him as some off-ball backer too. So he's athletic, agile, bendy off the edge. I think he can be a Sam backer if you wanted him to be stand-up on the edge of your defense, head up to tight ends. But it's going to be interesting just to see where teams handle him. He's a great guy too. Really nice kid.
Soft-spoken guy. You don't really expect that when you look at him, but then you walk up like kind of like a gentle, calm soul, and then
Gentle
he puts
giant,
on pads
man.
and he's like, "I'm gonna rip your face off," kind of stuff, which I love. No, it was fun covering Eku, and he's come on the show a few times. I'm a big fan of him. All right, a guy that I think you could have made the case, Damion, that he was Auburn's best player last year. I think Colby Wooden is fantastic. What he did at Auburn, I think, was incredible. His versatility is something that I actually expected more NFL draft people to be higher on than they are. So where do you have Colby Wooden going right now, projected as far as a grade? And I just thought it would be higher. Whatever you're about to say, like I thought Colby Wooden would be looked at higher than Derick Hall.
Colby for me is he's a high 2. I think he's a high second round pick. I love his game. And with him, similar like we talked about with the rest of them, the inconsistency with coaching really kind of hurt him in terms of just developing just consistency, right? So getting into the NFL and having consistent coaching is going to be really big for him. But you talk about a guy that's physical, athletic, twitchy, and just this, watching him over the summer, compared from the summer to the season.
Right.
Man, you talk about a guy that has really improved his handwork and understanding how to use his hand placement, his punches, and having counters, right? And the main thing for him is going to be just building that consistency versus the run. Because one quote that I was told was when he's on, he's maybe the most unblockable defensive line I've seen. And that was from an SEC coach. And I was like, man, I agree, because he's so hard to get a hold of with his length, his power, and his quickness. And, they used him on twisting stunts. He's able to bend around the edge, and he moves so differently than a guy that's 280, 90 pounds.
Right.
So I think, to be honest with you, and what I've heard from different people in the league, that he is that there's a couple teams that have him as a second round pick. And I think for me, man, I think this young man is going to be someone that we fast forward 2 years from now, he's going to be one of those talked about interior defensive linemen that teams are going to be like, man, I wish I spent that late first on him.
I'm with you. I really love his ability and I love his upside. We won't spend a whole lot of time talking about Anders Carlson, but just for the sake of it, kickers that get invited to the combine, does that typically mean anything?
Not really. I mean,
Okay,
you just watch them. You watch their tape and say, all right, what's your percentage? Are you nailing? Do you have the leg, the accuracy the teams want? And then what do you look like? Because the combine for them it doesn't prove anything. It's more so those live games, right? Like, where's your mindset in the Iron Bowl versus Bama? It's a 50-yard bomb that you have to nail with 3 seconds left to win the game. Where are you? Or do you have that Justin Tucker, not the full skill set, but just a mindset, right? You walk up with not a cockiness, but such a confidence that I can hit any kick on this field. That's more so what I look for when I'm watching the kickers, not so much what they do at the combine.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit when he was here. It's like I think his brother being Daniel helped him. I think, and we'll see what
happens.
No, it is what it is. Same genes, right? We'll just see how it works. Damion, awesome stuff, man. How can people check out everything you've got going on?
Of course, as you already alluded to, go to YouTube, Locked On NFL Draft Podcast with my guy Keith Sanchez. Well, he's a champion from the 2019 LSU Tigers. He was on the coaching staff. So, you're talking about a guy who coached Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. He's got stories upon stories, man.
Awesome.
Watching Stingley and Chase and Jefferson and Marshall in practice.
Yeah, that whole team got drafted.
Bro. It's right. The whole team got drafted.
Yeah.
And he was a big part of that, right? So check us out on YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course on all of your audio podcasts. And I'm a national scout over at the Draft Network. So you want scouting reports and everything, just go to thedraftnetwork.com and you can check out all our work.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Hey, you can find all of my written work at auburndaily.com. We will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.